So, welcome to the final episode. Maybe we'll talk a little more. The final episode of the campaign journey. We're going to call this the epilogue. The race is over. I got beaten badly. Don't cry any tears for me. I'll be fine. It was an enjoyable race. Met some amazing people. Scratched an itch. Said my piece. Had some amazing people that worked on the campaign. Lexi, Maricela, Adrian. Not a super big campaign, but at the end of the day, I think as if I had a chance to think about it for about 24 hours, is that what it comes down to is me personally made some very big, important, foundational, and incorrect assumptions about the electorate and what this race would be about. And why does those assumptions stirred the drink that turned out to be my undoing? First assumption I made was that it would be a fairly normal electorate, meaning that people who had voted before were going to vote again, and that talking to those voters would be tantamount to talking to the electorate this time. And I described this in early episodes of this podcast that the first very important decision that you make is who you're going to be talking to, who you're going to be sending your mail to, who you're going to be knocking on doors. You get a list from the Board of Elections. You look at whether they'd voted before, and you make some assumptions. Well, as it turned out on election day, there were thousands and thousands of voters that turned out to vote who had never voted before, in the neighborhood of 25, 30, maybe even 35% of the voters that came out that were ones that, because of that early decision, we hadn't been talking to. And that gets me into a little bit about the other assumptions that I made that turned out to be incorrect. One was that in 2025, we, the Democratic Party, were going to moderate to some degree, talk about problem solving again, talk about a little bit about that it'll be a competition between, do you go hard left or go moderate, in some broad interpretations of that. And as it turned out, the questions that voters were most concerned about started out being about that, like what's the direction of our city? How is it going to work out? Is Eric Adams doing a good job? And should we be doing some things different? It morphed into being about Donald Trump. And I was well positioned to talk about those two things. But at the end, it lurched into this space of what do we think about Zohran Mamdani, and a fight between Cuomo and Mamdani at the top. And then the third thing that went wrong for me, which was very important, was that the argument never really got engaged by Cuomo at the top of the ticket. So it was one hand clapping. He was not out there making a good, articulate argument for kind of a problem-solving approach to New York City's challenges. And so I didn't get any kind of air cover. And it also led to another thing that happened in the campaign. The campaign turned out to be about nothing. As much as I wanted it to be about issues, it turned out to be about very little. There wasn't a lot of friction between the candidates, wasn't a lot of debates, wasn't a lot of back and forth. And so as a result, on election day, people came out in droves in my neighborhood for Zohran Mamdani. And those were voters that hadn't heard of me. Those are voters for whom I didn't have any real natural thing to say to them that they had understood. And the funny part about all this is, if you recall, over and over again, we were tormented about, like, how do you talk about my scandal? How do we position it? Well, polls show that, like I said, about 30% of the electorate had not even voted since the last time I was on the ballot. They were brand new. And so all the conversation that I was having about both my record, the things I had accomplished, the things I was known for, and had a position vis-a-vis my scandals were kind of completely over the head of a lot of these voters. And they were just looking for someone different, someone new. And the two women did better in the race because of that. But a couple of things that I did get absolutely right. I knew that the front runner his support was fairly soft. And as we sit here, there's no final determination of who won, but the sitting assemblyman, who represented about 55% of the district, maybe even a little bit more, he got barely 40%. I got less than 40%. So I knew that it was there for the taking, but it just wasn't going to be me. So where does this? I mean, just in fairness, I was not the only one that made a lot of these calculations wrong. But they turned out to be my undoing. And to give you some idea, when we made the decision, I say we, me, when I made the decision to mail and to talk and to knock on the doors of people based on their past activities in the Democratic primaries, um, I think I probably did pretty well among those voters that I was talking to, but it was these other ones that I didn't do well with at all. Was this a fool's errand? I don't know. There were people who, as you know, as I've shared here before, said, "What are you thinking?" They were apparently right in that regard, that I had it wrong, but so did apparently a lot of other people. And one other thing that's different when you're a local candidate and you need to adapt to what's going on the ground, you have less ability to do that. If you're someone who's running a big campaign that has a lot of TV commercials, and you just start running different TV commercials about something different. For me, I was socked in on running a substantive campaign based on problem solving in the neighborhood, based on my reputation as a fighter, based on my solutions for getting things done. So very gratifying in a few regards. One, I met a lot of really great people. The kindness that people showed both on the street, on the doors, and everything else. I really did enjoy it. I think I did a good job as much as I could in making this case. Was this the right time and right district to be doing it? Apparently not. The voters said otherwise, and I totally respect that. It has been sometimes just euphorically enjoyable. Like, I would spend an afternoon knocking on doors, or I would go to some place and someone would say something nice to me, or someone would say how important it is what I was saying, or the fact that I was there after being knocked down. And then there were times where like, what am I doing? People yelling at me, or people saying, "Why are you running?" and things like that. One final thing, I did kind of decide to do it and get into the race late, and I thought that might be actually serve to inure to my benefit. But maybe it didn't. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered even if I got in earlier. I was still going to be me. I was still going to do the things that I wanted to do. So a lot of conversation about what happens now with the city. Look, I have deep concerns about Zoran's ability to do some of the things he says. I don't think this is an ideological job that he's run for. I've got enormous respect for the campaign he put together and enormous energy of the people that he generated at the polls. I sat there for 10 days of early voting and the election day and watched these voters come in. And when you say that 30% are people that hadn't voted, that's an accomplishment. That's something to be super proud of. I think he's going to be the next mayor. I haven't looked at any polling. No polling has happened yet, but I don't think that Eric Adams is going to be able to beat him as an independent who's got high negatives. And so that's my mini take. And we'll see. I hope he's successful. I hope the city continues, to be the most amazing place, and it has a comeback, and we do better. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and all the people that donated and signed petitions and sent me encouraging notes and all that kind of stuff. That was a lot of fun too. I got to figure out what I'm going to do next. I really did enjoy this, but the results are in. This neighborhood at least was like, we got other ideas, and that's cool. I have a little time this summer. Jordan is off at camp. I'll spend some time with Billy, my rescue dog, and I'll tune in with you back here at some point. Feel free to leave in the comments if you need a deli man or something, or someone to work at your dry cleaner or something like that. I really do appreciate it. It's been a real blessing to participate in this stuff. I really enjoy it. I think this is a glorious city, an amazing neighborhood, and a glorious city, and it's going to keep being that way. And I'll find some other ways to be involved with that. Anyway, thank you very much. Stick around. I don't know what's going to go on. It says anthonyweiner.com. We have to find out for the campaign finance board whether we can keep that open, but one way or another, I'll find a way to be in touch. God bless and take care.